The Malacanang press corps did not know about this clandestine talk. They had a decoy schedule.
We don't want the public to anticipate whether the negotiations will be successful.
Some people would think, why does the president go and talk to a rebel?
Somebody that everybody considered the head of a terrorist sort of organization.
The security team wanted one of the presidential security guards hiding behind the divider in case any bad intention was done against the president, there would be someone to defend him.
The risk for both of them was that they look each other in the eye and then go, oh, actually don't trust him.
Dito po ma'am, yung Barangay Manili is food basket ng mais, palay, at saka others na mga agriculture.
Pag-graduate ko ng elementary sa Carmen, poblasyon. Gusto ko makapira ako para maka-enroll ako ng Tapos, pumunta ako dito kasi dito ako naghahanap buhay para mag-ano ng mais. Nung panahon na yon, ang pamumuhay ng tao dito masagana. Kasi ang lupa dito mataba masyado. Minsan, ang isang tao maka-harvest yan ng mga 4 to 500 sacks of corn.
So maganda ang buhay dito, walang gulo. At saka every Friday, nagsisimba ang mga tao dito.
The Moro people in the Philippines are the indigenous Muslim population who are living in the Philippines in Mindanao for a very long time, since the Sultanate era. So they regard the entire land as their ancestral territories.
Their problems began in earnest when Christian settlers in the northern Philippines began to move south in search of land.
The Moro population were then displaced from their ancestral territories. With more Catholics entering Mindanao, we have also seen religious tensions between the Catholics and the Muslim indigenous Moros.
As a family, my mom is very religious, and she always requires all her children to also join her in so many Catholic rituals. And if you will not do that, you will have consequences. She will spank us. At that time, there's a conflict between Muslims and Christians, and they were fighting. It's an ongoing war.
Pagka sa June 19, mga 5 o'clock siguro, mayroon ng diyan, mga armadong lalaki diyan na parang iba ang ginagalaw nila.
Kaya lahat yung tao doon sa nadaanan nila, kahit yung bata, matanda, pinasama para dalhin doon sa muske. Yung tao doon sa muske, mga 120 siguro. Sinirado yung pintuan.
Pagkatapos, paano po makasurrender sa baril niya na wala namang baril? Kaya nagsasaka lang at saka naglaging, nagtutruso.
Ang katabi ko doon, si Ting Nagri, yung kapatid niya na si Manam Nagri, at ako. Nasa gitna ako.
Sabi nila, maghingi kayo kay Diyos ninyo para kahit kasi maubos na kayo mamatay. Pagka baril kita tay pagkahagis ng granada, 2 beses, dito na ako nakalagay, nakahiga ako dito.
Malakas masyado, kaya parang naano ako ng hangin na mga ganito. Pagka ramdam ko ba. Doon na ako. Pumunta na ako dito. Yung mga patay, nakahiga na. Yung dugo, dito na. Taga dito na.
Natabunan ako ng mga patay na. Pagkatapos may nasugatan solo, ang dugo dito sa mukha ko, sa buhok ko. Yung pagdagan sa akin, na ko ng dugo, mainit talaga ma'am yung dugo.
Wala silang pinipili. Kahit bago lang paganak. Walang matanda, walang babae, walang lalaki. Bata, matanda, pinapatay nila.
Ganito kasi ang nangyari, yung organisasyon ng Ilaga, Ilonggo Land Grabbing, lahat ng lupa ng Bangsamoro sa Mindanao, kukunin ng Ilaga. Ialis ang Bangsamoro sa Mindanao kasi para sa kanila na itong Mindanao.
The massacres was not only committed by the so-called Ilaga groups, but even by the military men. And therefore, we viewed the policy of government as that of a genocide. The young professionals started to organize themselves, and then in 1972, the Moro National Liberation Front came into being. So we are trying to create an independent state out of Mindanao.
Isa akong mga 15 years old ako, naka-training ako ng sa MILF. Para nag-decision ng Kosmale, para yung nangyari sa mga magulang ko at saka mga kababayan namin, na maiganti namin. Lahat ng Bangsamoro sa Mindanao, kunti lang gidida kasali sa organisasyon ng MILF para makaganti namin ang lugar namin na Mindanao, magkaroon ng justice sa pagpatay sa lahat ng massacre sa Mindanao.
I went home from Manila after my graduation in August 1972, and immediately in September already joined the Moro National Liberation Front.
Ang gusto po namin mangyari, gusto namin may kapayapaan. Ito ang minimitin namin, kahit hindi na independensya, basta meron lang gobyerno ng Bangsamoro, so yun po ang gusto namin po.
Martial law was declared by the late President Ferdinand Marcos. One of the reasons why martial law was declared was the violence in Mindanao.
Martial law was one of the darkest periods of time in the Philippines.
The advocacy of the Moro National Liberation Front that we are trying to create an independent state out of Mindanao. So I think this is one single factor that made the government under President Marcos to consider the Moros as enemy.
There was an indiscriminate killing of militants, students, civilians. It was a nationwide policy to quell the opposition voices. That led to the deaths of many civilians, many students, and the detention of more than 10,000 Filipinos within a short 9 years. During the martial law, there was a significant deployment of armed forces into Mindanao to fight the Muslim insurgency.
At the level of the Moro, it's really wiping out communities, massacre of thousands, hundreds of civilians.
There was an active recruitment campaign to get people who suffered from the massacre to join the Moro National Liberation Front. Subsequently, there were camps being built, there were structured trainings, and mobilization was more organized.
Yung basic po ba, wala pa kaming armas. Yung basic, wala-wala. Ano na, mga saging, parang ginawa ng ano.
In all our fightings, we are outnumbered because we are fighting a state. They are using napalm bombs, machine guns. So it does not discriminate whether you are a combatant, you are a civilian, you are a women.
Today, with the formal signing of this final peace agreement between the government of the Republic of the Philippines, GRP, and the Moro National Liberation Front.
While there are some ceasefire agreements, but the fighting did not really stop because of factions emerging. The Moro Islamic Liberation Front actually splintered from the MNLF.
The MLLF is basically a political organization. MLF have the Islamic ideology that determines how we proceed with our struggle. So you can see the divergence, the differences. So that is one of the major reasons why there was a split.
There was a sense that they were able to seek complete independence from the Philippines state, and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front became one of the biggest militant groups in Mindanao.
We cannot defeat the government in a conventional warfare because they have all the material resources. But we have the will to really to resist and fight. So they cannot defeat us in a guerrilla warfare.
Both sides are bleeding equally in the conflict, and therefore it led to a mutually hurting stalemate.
But I would say that building peace will be less expensive than supporting an all-out war.
If we continue to fight, it is hurting to government, it is hurting to the MILF. So practical reasons would dictate that we better talk and come to a compromise.
In the year 2001, the chair of the Philippine negotiating panel, so he calls me again and he says, would you help me? And I would say, yeah, I will help you. When I was a child, I wanted to right wrongs. I wanted to shine a light on injustice. In 2000, I founded the Mindanao Commission on Women. It was an NGO composed of Muslim, Christian, and indigenous women. And our goal was to mold public opinion in favor of the self-determination of the Moro people. The whole issue of identity as Bangsamoro was very important to them. They want to be valued members of society.
We organize indigenous, women, mothers, teachers, drivers, farmers. So these are people that have volunteered to watch the ceasefire.
It was pretty good, and people were getting hopeful that there was a headway of sorts. But something happened in February 2003.
The first part is really the ceasefire agreement, because without a ceasefire agreement, you cannot proceed with talking about what a peace agreement should contain. I was very involved in the implementation of the ceasefire agreement.
My profession is really inspired by my own father because he is also a lawyer. He speaks very highly of justice and a very liberal point of view. So that's how I was inspired to support and extend solidarity to our own brothers and sisters in the Bangsamoro. At the time, we were already part of the campaign to stop the war. Our group, the Mindanao People's Caucus, we were really strong in our call to bring the parties to negotiations.
I'm a reporter, but I'm also a stakeholder in a sense because I'm from Mindanao. So it's not just us flying in and parachuting to write stories. We live here. That was really a good year, 2001.
For the last several months, there was relative peace in this town. The people began to feel safe, not just physically, but also emotionally and psychologically.
Everything in the peace negotiations was going well. And so everyone was hopeful, right?
We were almost in the final stages of the negotiation. We were there meeting with the Speaker of the House because we were telling him that we had a final draft. And then our phone started to ring, that this was happening in Buliok.
During a very important holiday for the Muslims, the government timed it to attack the MILF, Buliok complex.
Buliok was really a big betrayal on the part of the government. We were led to believe that there's going to be peace. Little did we know that they were already cooking the Buliok War.
The ceasefire was still binding, but it was violated willfully by the government. So the MILF has no option really to fight back.
So it was a horrible day. What are you doing? So it was like the two parts of government were not in sync. You can imagine what the MILF must have felt. We're talking to you and why are we being bombed? Yeah. And so the MILF cut off negotiations.
I was so angry, I was so furious. I was crying the whole time. I felt that we also misled people because we thought that ceasefire was already on hand. We thought that we should bring our issue to Manila. We wanted to have a ceasefire. And then the president said that it takes two to tango. So if you really want to have a ceasefire, you should go to the MILF and then convince them to also agree to a ceasefire. That's her challenge to us. So that's exactly what we did. After Manila, we immediately proceeded to Cotabato and then looked for the MILF. The vice chairman for political affairs, he said that MILF is always on a defensive. They are not really the aggressor. If there's an attack, they will protect their communities. So our call for a ceasefire should be directed to government because they're the ones who are attacking. It was a hard-line positions on both sides.
I told myself, we have to do something. We can't talk anymore with the government. Let's bring the pressure from public opinion. So that's when I organized the Mothers for Peace campaign. I brought to Manila 2 Muslim women and 1 indigenous woman, and I made them do the rounds of all the media. First our fathers, then our husbands, then our sons, are part of this war. So we're the ones who suffer, and so we're the ones who want that war stopped.
If we want a ceasefire, we should do something dramatic. So it started with the women. So they lined up. It's a long stretch of people along the highway. And then later, the men also joined.
To ensure the safe and permanent return of the evacuees, to continue the rehabilitation of houses damaged by the war.
One of the reasons why this peace process is different from the other peace negotiations, because it involved civil society organizations, embassies, international NGOs as well, and even international monitoring team.
You have one side, the resumption of peace talks, past. Hardliners would like to continue the fighting side of things. So you needed a third party that will be respected by both sides. International monitoring team for the ceasefire. I served in Congress for 2 terms. I could not join the Moro National Liberation Front because I was with the government. I was invited later on to serve the Bangsamoro cause as a member of the Peace Panel, a lawyer for an armed struggling group. On my own initiative, I went to the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Japan 2 times, and I talked to higher ups to agree to come at the international monitoring team for the ceasefire.
See you again, Madam Obata.
The Philippines is a neighboring country of Japan. We need stability and peace in the Philippines.
The international players are all invited by the government and the MILF.
But right after the MT came, this violation of ceasefire agreement was tremendously going down, from 200-something down to 5. Why? Because MT always monitoring.
My main responsibility was in the political aspect of our struggle. I was called to chair the MILF Peace Negotiating Panel on July 29, 2003.
President Arroyo appointed me. He said, it will complete the cycle of your life. You are a civil society advocate pushing for this.
For all armed groups to keep away from civilian inhabited areas.
Now you'll be in government doing it yourself. I was a cabinet member. I had oversight on what is needed to bring an end to internal armed conflict. President Arroyo was quite clear, saying, no, the time for war is done. We are going back to peace.
A key milestone of the peace negotiation with the MILF in 2008 was the MOA-AD, Memorandum of Agreement for the Ancestral Domains.
The Memorandum Agreement on Ancestral Domain was negotiated by the MILF and the government of the Philippines 3 years and 8 months.
It's an agreement that's proposed by the Philippines Authority to recognize the homelands of the Bangsamoro people. Among other things, the autonomous region would have full control over its natural resources and other powers.
The Moro Islamic Liberation Front agreed that we no longer move for independence, but an autonomous arrangement.
To me, personally, the culmination of our assertion was MOA-AD, a claim to a territory that we had. I remember a week before the initialing of the MOA-AD, it was a very anxious kind of feeling that we had. Finally, we are signing a document, and it addresses ancestral domain, the heart of the issues of issues.
When we heard that there's going to be a signing of the MOA-AD, we were really very excited. We are all invited. It's a big international event. International media, they were all there to cover. Ambassadors, even the head of state are coming.
We were told a delegation from Manila is coming.
I was in a plane along with other officials to Kuala Lumpur.
Just when the plane touched down, so you can already open your phone, we heard so many sounds of all those sounds for the text messages.
Sorry, folks, the Supreme Court decided it is unconstitutional.
First quiet, and then I think, what are we going to do?
If you were in my position, how would you feel? The culmination of our assertion was MOA-AD, a claim to a territory that we had. Finally, we are signing a document, and it addresses ancestral domain, the heart of the issues of issues.
For the petition to the Supreme Court, predominantly Christian areas, did not want to be part of the autonomous region under the Moro.
When we returned to Manila, there was already fighting in Mindanao. We tried to recalibrate and restart the process. So that's what we tried to propose to the MILF. Why don't you engage the stakeholders and then address all those misconceptions? The idea that If we sign an agreement with them, all Christians will have to leave Mindanao. We brought MILF to the churches, and then Muagar Iqbal was able to talk to them and to tell them that we are not your enemies.
There is a need for communication. We have to bridge the gaps because for more than 300 years, we have been fighting each other.
We had to move forward in the peace process. And people could no longer move forward in the same manner that they did in the previous negotiations. So I think International Contact Group was a welcome development.
The International Contact Group was born out of a situation wherein we no longer trust the government under President Arroyo. We will no longer return to the negotiating table until and unless there is an international guarantee. Whatever is the agreement, the two parties, especially government, must honor and comply. So we pushed for that. What happened was International Contact Group, made up of 4 states and 4 non-government organizations.
The ICG of this Philippine process is the only one that's ever had states and non-government organisations together. NGOs could go and do things that governments can't do. I've been involved in regional civil society peace networks. That's how I got to be in the Philippine process.
But when we were able to really to resume the negotiation, and then I think that was already during the time of President Aquino.
My government will be sincere in dealing with all the peoples of Mindanao. We are committed to a peaceful and just settlement of conflicts. Walang patrino at walang pagnanakaw.
Aquino took over as president on June 30, 2010. Within 2 weeks, he named his government peace panel.
When we came in the negotiating panel, we were not ambassadors, cabinet secretaries, nor generals. We practically came from civil society, advocating to finish conflicts through political negotiations. When the opportunity came, I welcomed it.
When President Aquino asked me to take the position, presidential advisor on the peace process, no questions, because I knew that it was going to be a doable peace. That was the autonomy they wanted.
The range of powers they wanted was much, much more than what the Constitution allowed.
Which meant you would have to change the Constitution. But the President said, we cannot promise that. So what do we do? And the MILF won't budge on this. Then the President said, maybe I should meet with Murad. Maybe when we are able to look each other in the eye, face to face, maybe we can find a way.
That was good feeling among us because finally, when the President himself gets involved, that means it is a serious consideration.
The risk for both of them was they look stupid, they lose, it doesn't work, it doesn't happen, that they look each other in the eye and then go, oh, actually don't trust him.
But for the President, it was so clear. I'm talking to a citizen who has deep grievances. So I will go where he will be comfortable to talk.
Japan, that time, have big trust from both parties. It's prepared secretly. Only a few people in the Japanese government knows about the visitation of President Aquino as well as General Murad. That's why the venue was not in the center of Tokyo, in the area of Narita Airport.
A lot of meetings between insurgents and the authorities occur in secrecy. We don't want to allow the public to anticipate whether the negotiations will be successful because there's pretty high stakes.
The president arrived early evening, and then that's when we decided who gets to be in the room. The security team wanted one of the presidential security guards hiding behind the divider in case any bad intention was done against the president, there would be someone to defend him. But the panel felt it was not necessary.
We were only 4 in the room, President Aquino and Marvick Leonen, Chairman Murad Ibrahim and me in that room.
And when the president came out, he didn't really tell us the details. He just said it was difficult in the beginning. He said for a while I was afraid we weren't going to get anywhere, but then the ice broke and it was good.
That meeting between Chairman Murad and President Aquino created a very good atmosphere needed really to restart seriously the negotiation.
And I will say that after that, the dynamics changed. It didn't mean that the problems disappeared. After that, we became problem solvers. No longer across the table. If there was a problem, we were going to look for a solution.
We handed our proposal, and then they had time to study it. The next day, we were hoping for a discussion. We were sitting face to face. They said, we reject this draft.
There's a lot of swearing. People leaving the room in deep disagreement and deep disgust with each other.
What saved the moment was the international contact group persuading them to close the round.
Our job was to move amongst the parties and to try and help foster the goodwill, the energy, the understanding, the way of being able to work together.
We wanted powers that are needed to run a real autonomous region for the Muslims. There were reservations on the part of the government. Is it constitutional?
So after the rejection, of course, the atmosphere is no longer very healthy. So there was a lull. It took some time before there was a serious re-engagement through back channeling.
And the solution there was to come up with a list of common points. And that became the starting point for real negotiations on content of a future text.
So what we did was to look at issue by issue, then little by little, until finally we were able to agree on 10 decision points on principles. The last day, we are about to, around 3 o'clock in the morning, to settle the issue. It was a very hard negotiation until finally the last point was already agreed. And that is the only agreement wherein tears were falling from my eyes. I'm just an ordinary rebel. But maybe my strong point is because I know where I'm standing. I know what we are trying to get, genuine autonomy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, Benigno S. Aquino III.
This agreement creates a new political entity, and it deserves a name that symbolizes and honors the struggles of our forebears in Mindanao and celebrates the history and character of that part of our nation. That name will be Bangsamoro.
Before, the reference was Filipino Muslims, but the identity as Bangsamoro was not fully acknowledged and recognized in any legal text.
Just to say that within the Filipino nation is a Bangsamoro nation. Meant a lot to the Bangsamoro.
It's amazing. At the same time, on that day, you have to start the next part of the process.
The contentious issues really came about with the annexes because that's where you really needed to go into the details.
And that's when I came in as the chair when we started working on the annex. So you can imagine the memorandums that we were producing. Like, for example, how do you divide jurisdiction on air travel, which requires international accreditation? Can they negotiate foreign loans on their own? Then we had to deal with controversies like, are they going to ban alcohol from the non-Muslim community?
When you're spending days and nights and weeks negotiating all the details, it is easy to lose sight of the big picture. I remember there was a lot of shouting on a particular day, and then that evening, and I saw this spectacular display of Angry Birds balloons, and I thought, somebody needs to break the thing here. I brought the balloons and brought them in the room. They were the ones with helium, so they flew around the room. And because you can't not laugh at that, right? So it breaks the energy.
The whole of Mindanao and Sulu is the ancestral domain of the Moros and the indigenous people. But in reality, Mindanao has so many groups of people from Visayas, and Mindanao belongs to everyone. That's why, for practical reason, we signed a comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. If you look at the comprehensive agreement, it very clearly stated that we are putting up a really genuine autonomy.
No more war, no more children scampering for safety, no more injustice, no more misgovernance, no more poverty, no more fear. We are all tired of it. A new dawn has come.
They were very emotional. In a way, I thought I was contributing as a woman because for the first time, there's a woman's voice. All of the past agreements we had signed were all men. So there's a woman's voice, and I chose to make that woman's voice.
My realization now about peace process is you need the diversity of a peace negotiation room to be able to make the strongest possible robust agreement, because you can't see this problem of 40, 50 years of violence from just two perspectives. You need a lot of perspectives, and you need a space where people feel safe to completely express themselves out.
There are really only two things a peace builder does. You build hope and you build trust. Because with hope, people will act because there is a future. And then you build trust. Why? Because with trust, people will act together.
One of the secret of the success of the peace process in Mindanao, the communities are very much invested in the peace process. There are people who will not give up and who will not stop until they are really able to address and deliver the peace that we want.
The most important thing is that we have not gone back to war. Some of the socioeconomic pressures are being put in place.
What we achieve right now is not given to our people in silver platter. We pay this with our blood, with our tears, and with our perspiration. I love the Philippines. This is my country. I was born here. I will die here, inshallah.